Hi, this is Culture Shock, and I'm your host, Michael Wan, News Director for Radio Korea.
All right, welcome everyone. My name is Young Kim, Contents Director.
Yeah, and we have a very special guest. She usually doesn't appear on these
She doesn't
kind of
appear.
formats. No,
But she appeared today.
rarely does grant interviews, and it's very hard to reach her, but she somehow granted this one because she wanted to check out some episodes, and I think she feels comfortable enough to show up. So how are you doing, Carolyn Shim?
Caroline Shim joins us on Culture
Is it
Shock.
Caroline Shim or Carolyn Shim?
It's Caroline.
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 Yes.
Okay, Caroline.
How do you spell it? With an I?
I.
Okay.
Okay.
So, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Thank you for joining us.
Monday morning.
So, why don't you grant interviews?
No one asks me.
No. She's hard to grab. You know, she doesn't give comments that well. You know,
First of all,
don't
how do you
know.
guys know each other?
she was my source, right? The first
you're a source.
she gave me some valuable information.
You give information
back in the
out.
day,
Yes.
way back, right? Almost like a
Yes.
decade ago about
Yes.
some stuff, but we can't reveal it here.
What?
You know, yeah, but the first time I met her was in City Hall. Actually, I think you didn't
Oh.
know that I was there, but I went there for some kind of report in City Hall, and she was kind of really, you know, being aggressive about the community. And, you know, I always thought that she was very aggressive because of that image that I had.
Yeah.
It was about some Korean American community cause. But
Oh, so you were working for a community, a Korean American something, right? Like a nonprofit or something?
I think years ago, most people knew me as working in various departments of city government. But in my off hours, I was doing a lot of volunteer work, a lot of community activism in Koreatown, and going to public meetings and stating my opinions, organizing people with fellow friends who are also from that wing.
and you're still active. You're the board member for the Namgaju Hanguk
Yes, right now. So I still volunteer for a couple of items. One is I am a board member of the Korean Institute of Southern California. It's the organization that's been around for 50 plus years that puts on the language schools on Saturdays all throughout LA and Orange County.
Yeah, Korean language is very important, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's been have you seen sort of an uptick in people that demand to learn Korean?
Absolutely.
And this is not just for Korean Americans, but everyone, right?
Yes, non-Koreans. And also in the colleges too, there was a study that one of the consultants brought in was, I think in colleges you can choose languages, right? And before, Chinese, Spanish, those were the most popular languages that students chose. But those numbers have declined, and Korean has increased by, I think it was like 60 or 600% over like a 5-year period.
Not just California, nationally.
It was nationally.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is it
U.S.
because of the K-pop wave.
All of it.
That has to be
BTS
because of K-Wave.
and Squid
Yes.
Game
It
and
has
all
to
of
be.
these, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think K-pop is national. I've been hearing stories like even in countryside like Kansas and Oklahoma, Texas, there were a lot of K-pop fans even back in the early 2000s.
I think
yeah.
what's more amazing is that I think everyone knows Blackpink. For example,
Everyone
if you
knows,
talk
yeah.
to any young
Yep.
person out there, they know Blackpink.
Yeah.
Well,
you know?
even Hollywood celebrities know these people.
Yeah, it
Right.
seems like so. Are you a K-pop fan, by the way?
I am, yeah, indirectly. Yeah,
Oh,
but I
okay.
like the old school stuff like DJ Doc and HOT.
Oh, he's an old school K-pop
DJ
artist.
DOC.
Yeah, DH. Oh, really?
He's a
Yeah.
shop
Yeah,
artist.
you can't
know
you can't
Shop?
say DJ Doc anymore
Why?
in Korea.
Why not?
Oh, why?
Because it rhymes with something that imitates. It's like an onomatopoeia of somebody having sex.
Oh,
no.
okay. So that's
DJ.
why.
But
But you
Alright,
know what's
man,
funny?
man, I never
Have you
saw
heard
it
of these
that way.
K-pop acronyms? Do you know what DOC stands for?
No.
It's so pedophile-ish, you know? Dream of children.
Oh.
It's DJ DOC. Dream
Do
of
you
children.
think? Do you think?
No,
Or
no, no,
it
no.
could be
They
very
implied it
innocent.
that
No,
way
no,
when they
no,
first
no,
met?
No, it
no,
was
no,
very
I don't know,
innocent
Michael.
too.
No, no, no,
yeah,
no,
'cause-
no.
yeah, you're right. No,
Very
come to think of it,
innocent.
stream of children.
Yeah.
So
But you know,
a very-
it's just these K-pop acronyms from the past. It's really funny, like HOT, High Five of Teenagers.
yeah.
It's pretty lame.
I mean,
I think it's cute. That's what makes K-pop so charming, is that at least back in the day, it was more about fun. It was about joy and not so much about sex and all of the stuff that American rap is about.
I think so. You're absolutely right. The messages that they have on their rap lyrics it's very different. It's very commercial, but at the same time, it's pretty kosher, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, K-pop. I was always into it, but the music has dramatically changed. It's so complicated now. When I listen to like Sway Kids and the songs that are coming. You know, I mean, recently it's hard to follow.
Stray Kids.
I don't know whether is it Stray Kids?
What do you say? Sway Kids?
He said
Stray
sway,
Kid.
sway kids.
Did I say Sway Kids? No, I said Stray Kids.
Dude, hey, no more K-pop talk after BTS. No more after BTS. Okay?
All right, okay, no more. So you've been involved in also Koreatown Arts and Recreation Center too,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, that's been going on for 10 plus years. I'm not a voting member, but I'm just kind of like the historical secretary, if you will, because I've been there from the very beginning. And K-ARC, which is what it stands for short, is a consortium of the local nonprofits that are probably the 10 biggest, like KYCC, KAC. I won't go into all the details, but we've been working together for 10 plus years to get an arts and recreation center into Koreatown.
Okay, so K-ARC director, right? You're the director.
No, I'm not a director.
You're not
I'm like a secretary. I don't even have a
All right,
title.
okay.
Yes.
And Korean Institute of Southern California board member. Okay. You know, when I first talked with Caroline, you know, we had a lot of talks. You know, we had lunch a lot and talk about politics. I think most of the time I was the one who kept talking about politics, and she was looking at me like, "What? This is a crazy dude right here." You know, just
You
talking
guys were
about-
on
You
the
were
opposite
telling me about
spectrum,
like a
right?
pizza shop, and you were telling me about
Oh, the
No. I was talking about the WikiLeaks revelation.
gate-
the
the-
WikiLeaks
the
was
something
the
gates
revelation.
revelation.
Yeah. No, WikiLeaks, because WikiLeaks had just came out. Remember that?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was about that, and I do think that hurt Hillary Clinton's campaign, by the way, because there was some truth to it. There was some conspiracy theory stuff to it, but there was some truth to it, and we talked about politics. You know, where I lean, where she leans. I know.
Were you political
I-
back then?
So I think that's
She was
such
very
a
progressive.
yeah.
right?
It's a very loose word. It has so many ways you could take it, but yeah, I believed it very passionately in fighting for community issues, being a voice for the voiceless, and that oftentimes went into the political realm at a local level. I didn't really much follow politics above the local level.
You focused only mainly,
Mostly
you
on
know,
local,
around CD10,
But
right?
I did
Council
vote
District
very
10.
democratically. I think when after college I became like green or independent. I think I was like Green Party, but then eventually I became Democrat because I couldn't vote for much.
So when you look at the progressives now and the progressives then, when you were active, do you see similarities or do you see a complete difference?
I don't really know what progressives were back then. Like 10 years ago, you're saying? I'm not sure who the progressives were back then. I'm assuming they were kind of environmentally focused people, kind of into indie stuff. Just like that's just the image that I had of myself.
And they all went to Berkeley.
And kind of most of
A lot
them
of them
are
went to Berkeley or
and I would say
they-
most of them are like atheists. Agnostics, I would
Probably. I
say.
never thought about religion back then. So I can't speak for all the progressives from 10 years ago, but I probably would have put myself in that camp without knowing too much about it. But yeah, I wasn't into the environment. I mean, I wasn't into God or religion or faith.
No, I think even the progressives now, I don't think they. a
Oh,
lot of
yeah,
them-
absolutely.
I think
It's
they don't go
completely
to church.
Progressive. Oh
anti-God.
no, I think it's very far, the furthest from God out of
right.
any
Yeah.
party, right? I would imagine.
So I think that's a similar background. But I've always known you as a very progressive, left-leaning person. You know,
Yes.
whenever we talked, and you know, I would try to challenge you, and you would challenge me.
You guys
Back and
argued a
forth.
lot, huh?
It wasn't an argument.
It was fun. It was just fun conversation.
Because most of the stuff that I was talking about, she said nobody talks about those things.
Yeah,
You're the only one who
absolutely.
talks about all those.
Absolutely. So for me, it was fun.
Like, where are you coming up with
and
this,
it's-
right?
I don't mind conversations where people have differing views. I think generally nowadays it's very difficult to have those kinds of conversations
Mm-hmm.
because people are very sensitive, get offended very easily, and you know it's really difficult to have those kinds of robust conversations.
Uh-huh.
So I really appreciate talking to Michael.
I think
that
it's
we've learned.
important to have conversations like that. You know,
Absolutely,
whether
yeah.
you're on one side of the spectrum of politics or not, I think it's important for people to come together and be able to talk about these things and come to a consensus in between. Because it's, you know, a lot of the ways that we lean politically has to do with our backgrounds, you know, the way we grew up or what we had to do or where we come in life, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it's different for everyone.
And I actually enjoy it whenever I talk with people who have different point of views, because the people who have similar point of view, I already know it. You know, it's like singing to the choir, right?
Yeah.
But I want to know where they come from, because it's not like everybody goes out there to do evil to others. You know what I mean? I think they all mean well, and somehow along the line they go into different categories.
And I think that different categories it becomes even worse because of the news that's being
Exactly.
reported and how it's being reported. You know, it's like it seems that you're either one end or the other. News, the way they do things is just to put out something for their viewers that they'll like, but also keep an agenda going, and they'll not report things that's going to go against that agenda. You know.
And I think that's what I talked a lot with you, Caroline, right? About the mainstream
Because the
media.
news you're getting, you know, and she's obviously going, where did you even get this, right? And you're thinking that's probably even fake news or something, but it's actually real stuff that's out there that's just not being reported.
But Caroline, you had a radical change all of a sudden. You know, I think one day I mean, we didn't talk. I mean, I don't know. We didn't keep in touch for like a couple of years, and then I don't know why, but you know, we had a lunch.
I think
meeting.
it was because I left the city in terms
You
of
left the
job.
city.
So
Well,
Why did you leave?
I left the city in 2015 for just a variety of reasons, but I think I was focused on just pursuing my own desires and my own, goals and personal
which city
ambitions.
were you at?
I was at the city of LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you kind of
I
left
quit-
the community
I quit
thing for a
working
while, right?
and then I just started like traveling and doing
right,
fun
you're
stuff.
right. She just disappeared.
I disappeared.
She just
yeah.
disappeared.
Soul
for a minute.
searching.
Years. Huh?
Would you say it was a time of soul searching?
Soul searching, yes. Yeah. But I mean, I think everyone, especially young people these days, their goal is to work hard and retire as early as possible so that they can travel, have experiences and all of that stuff. And that's the goal I had in mind too. So it wasn't like a soul searching thing. It was doing everything I wanted to do anytime.
Was it
having free
frustration
time.
too? I mean, I think
Yeah, there were
you
some
always
frustrations.
meant well.
Yeah.
You know, the reason why I liked talking with Caroline was she always meant well, and she wanted Korean community to get as much benefit as possible from the city. So that's why, I like talking with her. But
Yeah, that was what
you talked about
social
the
equity
frustration,
was
right?
back 10 years
yeah,
ago.
what kind of frustrations did you face?
Well, personally, just working at the city of Los Angeles and seeing like the inner workings for many years across very different departments, there was just a lot of inefficiency, a lot of bureaucracy, and the way the political architecture is set up with the mayor, who is like the chief marketing officer, as one of my former deputy mayor friends said. I thought that was the perfect title. And then the way that the power is split up amongst the city council and the way that they did business, it just seemed very hopeless in terms of, when people claim that they can fix homelessness or solve it, it's actually completely false.
I
And to
agree.
expect that one person can do it, knowing the architecture of the way power is like divided, it's not possible. It's just structurally like the way that city government is set up in Los Angeles, there's not one person who can fix it.
Yeah.
And plus, I ultimately realized it's not an issue that can be fixed with housing or social programs. It's actually an inner heart issue.
Let me ask you a question then. When you look at cities like Portland, for example, or Seattle, there's Kensington, was it? There's Kensington. There's also a lot of these, San Francisco, for example. Like you have a lot of businesses that are going in there that have gone in there to invested tons of money in there, but closed down exactly a year after because of all the crimes that are happening, people stealing stuff. When you look at the state of the city, I mean, I was in Korea for about 20 years, since 1997. When I came back in 2017, I didn't notice it at first, but after about 3 or 4 years, I was like going, dude, this country, what happened to this place?
I think 2017 was very transitional.
It was a pivotal
yeah,
point.
that was a very
Yeah.
pivotal time. when you came here.
I guess it
Because-
No,
was.
you
when
came
the-
at a good time
Yeah.
to witness like
No, to witness the whole problem.
Okay,
because
yeah.
it kind of blew up, right?
Yeah.
Starting from
for
2017.
sure. And I
would
think
say.
Koreatown was a very good place to witness this extreme change.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you're in the suburbs of the San Fernando Valley, like where my sister and brother-in-law live, they had maybe like a homeless encampment here and there and spread out under the underpasses. But in Koreatown, because it's such a small, dense community that's, very highly trafficked, you could just see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Suddenly it wasn't just at Wilshire and Vermont. It was just like everywhere.
Yeah. Through the pandemic too. Venice Beach, I grew up around there. I'm not there around there, but there was a business on the boardwalk that my parents were involved in, and I went there all the time when I was in my junior high years. And when I went there around the middle of the pandemic or a little after, I mean, it was just crazy. It was just a bunch of camps. That was it.
I think homelessness really got worse starting from 2017. I think that was a pivotal year, and then
Yeah.
the shelter thing came up about how
But
much of a big issue that
Not
was.
just that, also, I mean, just crime in general. I mean, I was a victim of a crime like several times. I mean, you hear of, I was also operating a restaurant. I still do. And it's like when someone comes and tries to dash on you, it's like you can't do anything. You could take pictures of their license plate. You could have videos of it. You can't do anything.
It's lawlessness.
Yeah, and then there was a guy that started going crazy and disturbed everything, started knocking things over. So I had to call the police. They arrested him. He came back 2 hours later.
Yeah.
I'm just like, how are we supposed to deal with this as like a business person? I mean, why is like the law, the nation of law or whatever, not enforcing the law?
Right.
It's just so weird how everything's become.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising and not surprising at the same time. I mean, if we think about the Book of Revelation, which talks about the end times, it talks about the degradation of society, right? And it's just happening on an exponential rate, where where even the word truth has been hijacked, right? And so truth is now no longer an objective statement of facts that we all know to be true, but in fact, it's a subjective thing based on how you feel today. So it could change tomorrow. And so what does that mean for systems of laws? Laws are going to be very subjectified, I think, in the very near future.
And we talked about it last week when the Durham report came out. I said, I think the truth became the lie. The lie became the truth. I think we're living in that generation. Caroline, I think you know what it means. When you disappeared from the scene, the K-Town scene, I felt you disappeared out of frustration. I never asked you that. But one day when we talked about it, you became very different, became a Christian. Can you tell us your radical change and why you decided to give your life to Christ?
So you had no involvement with the church whatsoever before?
Right.
Like your parents weren't religious or anything?
No.
Oh, wow.
But I called myself a Christian because I was Korean.
Okay.
To me, that was like the same thing. It's part of our identity as Korean Americans. And so I would go to church on like Easter or Christmas.
Major holidays.
Yeah. So, and my good friend Yona, she was a devout Christian, but we would have conversations. Like I would, for instance, just get very angry with her about her views on homosexuality, because I had close friends. I still have close friends who are gay. Right. And so I didn't understand and actually was angry, by the Christian view on homosexuality, for instance. But anyway, fast forward to 2015, I left the rat race and basically traveled and did everything I wanted to do for the next 2 years. And no matter what ultimately happened was, no matter what place I was in, what new country I was in, what new activity I was doing, like scuba diving or skydiving or whatever, what have you, some new experience, I realized.
Skydiving too?
Huh? Well, I did that a long
Okay,
time
okay.
ago, but I just threw that in there
All
just to show, like, no matter what I was doing or where I was at or who I was with, after the initial kind of excitement and newness and happiness fades, I came back to the same place, which is a feeling of unfulfillment, lostness, and it was like a very bad place. And so I had struggled with depression earlier when I was younger, and also sometime in my 20s when I was in grad school. But I started to feel at the end of a couple of years this this realization that these things that we're all striving towards, it's empty at the end of the day. And I understood why celebrities and like the people who reach the pinnacle of their careers, pinnacle of whatever achievement, they like people who win the lottery or people who get a gold medal afterward, they feel very lost, right? Because they realize even achieving that level of success or achieving whatever you think is the end all be all, it's actually just a lie. Yeah. And so after that, I started searching, and another good friend of mine introduced me to like a self-help kind of program. And I won't say the name, but it's very popular in LA. And I basically had a little bit of truth that was sold to me, and I took it hook, line, and sinker. And basically for the next year and a half, I was in a cult, I would say. It's very popular, like new age thinking. Like if you can manifest it, it will happen. All of the kind of new progressive people are into like I don't know.
Secret.
Yeah. Tony Robbins, Oprah, that's like the old folks, but there's new ones like Jay Shetty. I don't know how you say his name, but basically.
So like motivation,
motivational stuff,
like
self-help
life coach,
stuff, very
right?
empowering, empowering stuff. Yeah, and life coaches as well. So I got into that, just went into it for a year and a half, and then as I stayed in there, I started seeing like some cracks in their story, some cracks in the illusion. And when I stepped back a little bit, I started seeing the reality a little bit more, which is that it's basically just it's a cult, right? Ultimately, it's a cult. And so I stepped away from that. And then I started feeling the very familiar signs of depression coming on. And so that's when I reached out to my friend Yona. And basically she just asked me if I wanted to read a book together with her. And so ultimately during that, the next month, I finally understood what the gospel was. Right. Yeah.
So was that with the read together? Was that the Bible?
No, it was actually a different book called The Purpose-Driven Life.
That's by Rick Warren,
Rick
right?
Warren, yeah. And who has, people have...
Saddleback Church.
Yes,
right?
yes.
He stepped down, I think.
He
right?
did, he did. And since then, but basically, like, how do you think... let's see, I'll ask a question.
Actually, that book, had a lot of meaning for me too, personally too. Yeah,
well, I'll ask you guys, how does one get to heaven?
For me?
You die.
I think you believe that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. Yeah.
Right. For most of my life, I thought that it was by being a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I considered myself a pretty decent person because I wasn't greedy, I wasn't hateful, I wasn't vengeful or had murdered anyone or killed anyone. But yeah, ultimately I learned that we're actually all sinners. And so going back to the state of lawlessness and this state of people just like doing whatever they want, stealing from a store, eating and dashing, drug use, all of that stuff, ultimately it just points to the sin within all of us. I mean, you're a sinner, you're a sinner, I'm a sinner. All of us have this broken, deep ball of sin inside. And that's why we're doing what we do.
My ball of sin is very big.
Yeah, mine is too. Mine is too. And so ultimately, when I finally saw that within myself, I realized, oh, shoot, because of this, I know where I'm headed to if I die today. And that is hell. Right. And so that's when I literally just got on my knees one day, one afternoon in my apartment in Silver Lake, very progressive place. I was in Silver Lake.
That's where Garcetti lives, right?
Huh?
That's where
he had a house there. I don't know if he still lives there, but I literally got on my knees one summer afternoon and I just prayed to God and I said, if you're real, I said, help me believe, because I basically finally reached the end of myself. And I was like, I don't know how to get myself out of this. I need help. If Jesus is the way, if he really died on the cross for my sins and he resurrected and he is God, then I want to believe in him, but I don't. So I just asked God, give me that faith, help me believe. And I just made that prayer. Yeah. And like
it worked.
It worked.
Voila.
Yeah. He saved me. He had mercy.
Yeah, because when I met you, I think you looked very rejuvenated. When I met you after years later, I don't know whether it was 2019. It was pre-pandemic,
remember.
I think.
Yes, for sure.
And you had a completely different point of view towards life and also politics or other society issues, societal issues. And was it just like a one day event? You changed. Out of the blue.
It almost sounds like it happened overnight.
So what does it mean to be saved by God? It means I had a heart of stone before. It was like I was spiritually dead. I was physically alive, but spiritually dead. My soul was dead. But then that day or that when he saved me, he made me have like a beating heart of flesh, and I came spiritually alive. And so then now I had a hunger for spiritual things, a hunger for God. And therefore the following week, I had no idea what, like in hindsight now I see what happened, but the following week I Googled Bible School Los Angeles. Because for the first time in my life, I wanted to read the Bible and I knew I needed help. And so that's how I got led to the Los Angeles Bible Training School, which is the small school in Watts that I've been a part of for the last 5 years. And yesterday was a graduation. It's just an amazing treasure in South LA. And basically there I got to read the Bible with professors and other students who love the Lord and love the Word, and they gave me they have been equipping me for the last 5 years. And so as I started to read what God was saying about life, what what the spiritual world is like, what earthly world is like, and he just changed my mind about so many things.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm firmly grounded in Christ and what God says is what is true, it completely changed my perspective on people, society, laws, righteousness, justice. I think before, social justice is such a newly coined term, I would
Yeah.
say, or
It is
a
pretty new, pretty
popularized
recent,
term,
yeah.
right? But I think the work that my friends and I were doing before, it was social justice. We just didn't know that was a term to put it in. But basically, the concept of even justice, it comes from God, right? It comes from what is right and what is wrong. But it's just been kind of, hijacked as well. And it's just like kind of modified.
Yeah. So you're a born again Christian, I would
Yes.
say, right? I remember when you were starting that Bible study,
Yeah.
all that.
Were you surprised?
I was surprised, but also at the same time, I go to church, so I'm a Christian, so I understood, because I think people have to hit rock bottom.
Absolutely.
I think most of the people who become Christians, I see them always hitting rock bottom. I'm not talking about just going to church because of their parents. I'm talking about people who just doesn't have any background.
Yeah.
Pretty much, and they hit rock bottom. They try this and that, all sorts of ways, but it all ends up empty, like you said.
Yeah.
And then I think that's when people turn to Christ and they change radically. I saw so many people, drug addicts, change their lives. There's so many people have changed their lives
Yeah.
dramatically through Christ. And I think you too, you change not per se outward, because you always smiled, and but probably you were fighting your inner turmoil,
Demons, yeah.
inner demons at that time. But when you came back, I felt you were rejuvenated. Your point of view was completely changed. And how would you talk with your former self? When you were,
That's a good question.
like an atheist, but
Right.
you were fighting for left-wing causes. And how would you talk to that person? Because
Shoot.
it's like two different people, right?
Right. Yeah. I think that the things that I used to fight for and be passionate about, they're still important issues, but they're distractions from the main issue
Yeah.
for everybody. So even if conversations are about politics or about social equity or the environment or family or whatever, that's still a secondary issue. And so the primary issue is always going to be about a person's relationship with God. That is the number one issue. And so even with homelessness, it's a sin issue. Drug addicts, it's a sin issue. Ultimately, sin is because we all come from Adam and Eve. We all have that sin within us. We're born separated from God. We're born without a relationship with the person who created us, the spirit entity, whatever you want to call him, the God of all creation, the God of the universe. We don't have a relationship with him. In fact, he is at war, like enmity with us. So when we are not right with him, nothing in our lives is gonna go right.
Before you found God, I mean, what were your thoughts of like when someone asked you, what do you think happens after you die? What was your thought? You just
I
die?
don't think
and
anyone asked me that question,
Oh,
but I
really?
just thought I would go to heaven.
Automatically, right?
Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
You live
but
a pretty
before
good life.
before religion, I mean,
Yeah, I
did you
still
even
thought-
believe in a heaven or a hell?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I think that there's in this culture of at least Los Angeles, because I've also done a lot of door knocking evangelism. So I ask people, where do you think you're going to
you
go
did.
after you die? If you were to die today, where would you go? And 99% of the people say they're going to go to heaven.
That's not what they
Even
say.
though
Oh,
only-
just by being a good person.
Yeah.
You're saying.
Yeah.
Even though they don't believe Jesus, they would all
Exactly.
just say that.
So whether they say they're Jehovah's Witness, Buddhist, or mostly people in LA, it's interesting. LA is mostly atheist, and then Alhambra, where I live now, there are more religious people, but not necessarily like they're not Christian. They could be Catholic or Jehovah's Witness or whatnot.
So what I think is like the left wing people. I'm talking about like progressives, like BLM, the Antifa, the Fringe. I think they're being used by these evil forces. I mean, that's personally what I think.
It's absolutely
evil
true.
Forces
Yeah, even
from-
the self-help group I was in, that's actually just a cult, which is it's a false religion. It's everything, even the BLM. I haven't been on it for a while, but I remember when it started, because I have a lot of Black friends. I mean, the school I go to is mostly Black. My old church that I went to was mostly Black too, and so and it was.
I'm saying, yeah, not them. They are evil, but they are being used.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
BLM. Yeah, I know the people who means well. Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah.
But if you looked at the statement of faith, I'll say, or the things, the major points that BLM stands for, I think they've taken it down. But if you read the thing about like the nuclear family and like
Oh,
a
yeah, you're right.
patriarch,
They're
whatever,
against it,
it's
right?
very anti-God. It's very anti the Bible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's these things, these constructs are basically just Satan's vehicles for, moving the masses and stuff.
All right, we're going to be back with more on Culture Shock with Caroline Shin. More talk about religion and also
politics
ideology,
and-
as well as how that mixes with politics.
잠깐만요. 엘리베이터 내가 잡아놨어. 빨리 다치기 전에 빨리 와. 빨리.
잠시만.
진짜 아까 그 사람 찾으면 우리 늦었어.
그니까 진짜 엘리베이터 잡아서 너무 고마워. 내가 진짜 밥 살게.
근데 나 요즘 속이 안 좋아가지고. 모르겠어.
왜 이래? 내가 도와줘줄까?
근데 면접 끝나고 맛있는 거 먹고
시작하자고.
소화제 먹고 맛있는 거 먹죠? 조금 괜찮은 거 같기도 하고 잘 모르겠다.
We're back with Culture Shock, and our special guest today is Caroline Shim, right? S-H-I-M. Shim, right?
It's not even Shim, it's Sim.
Korean name is Shim Ju-hyun, right? It is.
Do you speak?
right?
You speak Korean, obviously, and you teach, right?
Conversationally. No, I don't teach.
Oh, you're a part of a school, right?
I'm the worst speaking Korean on the board.
Maybe you should
I
practice
should
Korean.
honestly
You should
take the classes.
자, 이제부터 한국어로 진행하겠습니다.
아니요.
So, what shifted your political ideology after you became a Christian? I would like to know.
Right. So, what God says about politics or government systems and leaders that are put in place, they're all created and ordained by him.
Yes.
So whether it's a Biden in place or a Trump in place, whoever it is, I am to pray for them and pray for their souls, that they would be saved first and foremost, and that they would be just, righteous leaders. So before, I think that, well, not before, but just I've always been a person who kind of goes by the issues, not necessarily by the personality. And so,
I pray for Biden too. Yeah.
yeah, we should
I pray for his soul.
Yeah, we should pray for all of our leaders at the federal, state, even the local ones. So
That's
But
what
what issues did you change? Like abortion and those
yeah,
things? I
so
wanted to know.
before I used to support abortion. My
Okay.
my roommate used to be a VP of Planned Parenthood.
Really?
And yeah, we're good friends even now. We just celebrated her birthday last week. So I was very pro-abortion, and now I'm against abortion, which is the murdering of innocent babies.
I mean, it's just flipped just like that because of religion.
Once I read in the Bible what matters to God, which is that every life is valuable,
It is very
then
valuable.
I realized then abortion
Because
is
once you have
not.
kids and you see what these babies become, some good, some bad, but and the magic and like the the life that they bring, it's that's what it could have been.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and God said that children are a blessing. They're not. A lot of people get abortions because it's not convenient for their timeline, or
inconvenience, right?
inconvenient
Yeah.
for their own timeline. and just it's a very selfish reason.
But there are also people out
abortion.
there with very terrible reasons for having an abortion, for example,
Right.
rape or sexual
Right.
assault, something like that.
But even those, actually, I'm going to speak to that because that's a topic that a lot of people bring up in support of abortion. Is that what if there's a woman
Extreme
who has
cases.
been a victim of incest or rape? And I'm sorry to say, but even in those horrific situations, that does not, it does not negate the trauma that mom has gone through, or the injustice of, and the I'm getting angry about whoever the perpetrator is, but that doesn't mean the abortion is
like
allowed
the left
or
wing
should
would
be allowed.
always use these very extreme cases, which is like probably 0.00 something percentage, but like it's the majority of the cases. What about
Right.
rape and all those.
Yeah.
But I think I think when I think about abortion, it's more of a sex issue, like people having unprotected sex.
Absolutely.
And and people, and I know some, to be honest, some of my friends who just flat out say, I would never wear protection. I mean, that's not fun.
It's a
or
form of
something
birth
like that.
It's
control.
not fun.
Yeah, I mean, I had friends like that, and I'm like, man, that's so irresponsible. So that means you're gonna open up a huge possibility that you're gonna have a baby.
Well, you better have a lot of money.
If the girl don't take any pills or some protection on her side, then the possibility goes up, right? And that's why I think they support abortion in that very selfish way too.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Being religious, like in America, like when you look at some of like the Grammy, not the Grammys, but the MTV Music Awards, for example, they used to say that there's all these satanic symbolism that's in there. Some of these some of these ceremonies actually are right out of a satanic, I guess, ritual, right?
wow.
Like
I
Sam
didn't know
Smith, right?
Yeah, there's also like the Grove or the Bohemian Grove.
Oh
What's
yeah.
that?
You don't know
Okay.
about Bohemian Grove? You should know. You should know about it.
Okay, so basically, it's like a secret society. They have like this once a year. It's a camp in the woods, very private.
Sonoma
and all the
County.
most powerful politicians as well as conglomerate leaders, the world leaders, they all gather here, right?
Okay.
And then they have like a ritual where there's like an owl or something in the background, a huge, gigantic owl, and they burn like an effigy and stuff. And when you look at it, it looks very satanic,
It does.
wow.
Yeah, and you know who broke that? Alex Jones, right?
Alex
I
Jones
don't even
broke
know
the
who that is.
from
All right.
Infowars.
I don't have a TV, so I don't.
But Alex Jones is known to
Well, you have the internet.
expose all
Not
these
even-
news.
Yeah, he
and
is,
brokers.
right?
That's why
Okay.
the mainstream media and the establishment hate his guts.
And
I see.
what is it? Anderson Cooper's family, his mother.
Bilderberg, right?
When you look at like an old
Oh,
picture
yeah,
of
there
when
was
Anderson Cooper was a kid,
You're right.
in the
It's a
bedroom,
very-
there's like this really creepy painting
I mean, that's
of
weird.
like
I
some
don't
kind of a
understand
child
it.
sacrifice or something. It's just really weird, really funky, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, the Bible always states this, says that there are satanic forces out there.
There
Yeah.
are.
Do you believe in like satanic forces in government secret societies,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
Do you believe that they really control a lot of the things? For example, the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
In
they can
July,
make it
right?
sound as innocent as they like, but when you have like world leaders going there and all the
Presidents.
richest people, you know, and the most powerful
Corporations,
people in
CEOs.
society, you know, you kind of want to know what's going on over there, right?
And all male, right? It's all male though. It's all male society too.
Oh, is it?
The Bohemian Grove. I think they're opening up in July too, and it's really creepy as heck. And they
You should check it out. It's pretty
aren't they-
crazy.
I don't know
I
whether they
mean,
use a
there's-
model, but they sacrifice like a baby and
No,
stuff.
I heard it was
could
like
be
an
a baby-
effigy
It could
or
be,
something.
it could be like a
Wow.
toy baby stuff, but
I'm pretty
just
sure it's not a
really,
real baby.
I feel, as a Christian point of view, the whole world is evil. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely. So
especially politics.
People think that who controls hell?
Satan. Oh,
Actually, God does.
You mean God? God.
Yeah. But Satan's kingdom is earth,
Mhm.
is right now. And so everything in this earth,
Is ruled
in
by
this
Satan.
world, is the prince of the power of the air is Satan.
Yeah.
He is ruling in the government bodies that we see. He's ruling in businesses. He's ruling in social media. All of it is part of his domain. Yeah. But ultimately, God is still sovereign. He's
Yeah.
still in control. He is letting Satan be on a loose leash to do what he will on this earth. And Jesus is coming, and he will come this time to not be a gentle and lowly lamb to be sacrificed, but he is coming as the rightful heir to the throne. So
So you believe in the end times, right?
Absolutely.
So like,
Do you think it is near?
I mean, even the apostles, like thousands of years ago, thought it was imminent. And so it is imminent. Yeah. It seems like things are going exponentially towards that direction in the degradation of society, even with like the advancement of AI. It just all
Right.
seems to be pointing to the
The Antichrist, the
yeah,
666
exact-
system.
all that stuff. Yeah. I'm not an expert on like end times theology, but I mean, even as a layperson, I see what I see on the streets. I see what I see in relationships and broken families. I see it, in the headlines I see on the internet.
Yeah, I mean,
I
if
don't
you
really
read,
read the articles.
yeah, if you read the book of Revelation, it feels very much in tune what's going on right now. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah, the whole world. Evil is good is evil, and when you look at these transgendering kids, I feel like that's very satanic in
Oh,
my
absolutely.
personal view.
Yeah. It's
And-
going into chaos. It's going into lawlessness, and just it's a very sad state. I just think of all the kids. I think about the kids and just the general public who are asleep, who don't understand just this reality that we're all barreling to. And so it really creates like an urgency in me to share the gospel with people so that people would take it seriously. People are too busy with their day-to-day lives to think about their souls, where their souls are going to be for eternity, because they're focused on just right now.
And don't you kind of think the progressive side, the left-leaning side, they don't know the other side, I think they're not informed. When I talk with conservatives, they know the other side of the story. But when I talk with liberals, and you too, when you used to be a liberal back in the day, you didn't know the other side until I talked with you,
I
right?
don't even know any of the sides, to be honest. But whether it's back then or even now, I think 99% of the population doesn't see the truth. The truth of God, the truth of the spiritual world, and the true state of our own personal souls. And so that's the most concerning thing. So I don't care about sides. I don't care about politics,
but-
because
yeah.
I'm just focused on the soul.
Because I think faith and believing in Christ, those are very personal things. Unless people have their own personal revelation, I don't think they would be able to be awakened, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Even salvation is from God. And so it wasn't, even when I reached the end of myself and I like basically hit rock bottom, that was a grace of God. It was a gift of God. So
you were saying blessing in disguise.
it was a
right?
blessing in disguise. It was the only, it was the way for him to soften my I don't know the mechanics of salvation, but I had to basically be able to I was able to surrender finally.
But you don't seem like you've ever hit rock. Seem like the person to ever hit rock bottom though. Was this a very hidden thing, like
Yeah, it
personal
was an
thing that no
internal
one really
thing.
knew about?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, on the outside it looked fine. I retired early. I was living the life, and it looks like just I had everything going for me. But inside I was not. It was the exact opposite.
But you came back to the community now, working.
In a
is
way,
that because you
picking
want
and
to
choosing.
spread the message in a certain
Yeah,
way?
so everything I do now, it's with the focus of, shining the light of Christ. So whether in my speech, in my actions, in how I use my time, how I use money, all of it is God-centered. So even the volunteer activities, it's very like I pray about it, whether I should get involved or not, and just it's just everything's God-centered now.
So how are you answered? How are those prayers answered? If you have a question, do you just feel it?
It depends.
Sometimes takes time.
Yeah, sometimes it takes time. So God speaks to us every day in the Bible. And the Bible is like the instruction manual for life. So if I have a question about should I do this or that, oftentimes like a lot of it is already addressed in the Bible. God tells us how to live and how to make decisions. When there are specific situations that take discernment, I will pray about it. And sometimes people say, or I'll say like, I have a peace in my heart to go in a particular direction. God gives us free will. He gives us free choice to do a lot of different things too. And he is still over it all, if that makes sense. It's hard to describe these things. But
He has complete control.
yeah,
over the
sometimes
whole thing.
I remember even a few months ago, I felt like God was telling me to do something for someone. And so I just did it. And
Just get a
How
conviction.
How did you
right?
feel after that?
I felt at peace. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you look much more peaceful than before. You know,
Oh,
I mean,
thanks.
very.
Yeah. I had a
Was
lot
she
of
very,
angst.
like,
I had
was
a
she
lot of
very active?
self-righteous anger
I-
before.
I think she was very active, but I never saw
Yeah.
the anger side. But she wanted to right the wrongs, you know,
Yes.
that was going on in the
Yes.
Korean community and all that. But I think now you are more spiritual, more at peace. That's what I feel, you know, when I talk with you. But I wanted to say, you know, we talked about like abortion, people who aborted babies, and also LGBTQ plus. I mean, according to the Bible, it might be sin, but doesn't mean that they're not forgiven. They can be forgiven.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, it's so funny because I think there's this portrayal of, well, first of all, there are a lot of professing Christians, people who say they're Christian,
Yeah, but very judgmental though.
who
yeah.
can be very hateful and
yeah.
judgmental, just like any non-Christian. But unfortunately, other people who see that will associate Christianity, Jesus Christ, and Christians as being judgmental, hateful, and all of that stuff. And so that's just the sad reality of broken people who can say what they want to say, and sadly they'll be taken as representatives of Christ. But what Christ is about, what Jesus Christ is about, what God says in the Bible is that homosexuality is a sin. He also says that, you know, there are two
I think
kinds of
cross-dressing is a sin. or
There's only
something like
one
that, right?
sin where you get condemned from heaven, right? That's blasphemy.
I think.
I think you're thinking
I
about the
think
unpardonable sin.
Yeah, the
which
unpardonable
is actually
sin.
blaspheming the Holy Spirit.
the Holy Spirit. Yes.
But going back to the gender, all that gender stuff, and homosexuality, so it is a sin, and it's a serious sin.
It's an
a serious sin,
abomination in the
but
Old
it's not an
Testament.
unforgivable sin. There's a guy named Beckett Cook, I believe. He used to be a gay set designer somewhere in Hollywood, like Silver Lake area. He had a chance encounter with some Christians at Intelligentsia, I believe, in Silver Lake. Went to church. He got saved, and now he talks about. And I've met actually many former homosexuals who are now committed to Christ. One particular, he actually married a woman at the church, and they have adopted two special needs kids. And so part of his evangelism and ministry is about talking about his homosexual like urges that he's had ever since he was as far as he could remember, but that once he surrendered his life to Christ, he was willing to die to that desire that was within him still, but he was willing to be celibate for the rest of his life. However, like a few years later, he happened to meet his future wife, and he started developing feelings for her, and they eventually got married. Yeah.
Well,
so,
what about, you know, there's also people like who even have pastors for, you know, parents or grew up under a very religious household who have, you know, been told, quote, to pray the gay away, but, you know, they're still the way they are and they're happy with it. I
I think
mean,
it doesn't happen overnight, right? Just because you pray the gay away, so to speak, like you said, you know.
I don't know. I guess it's a
they
very
have to-
personal issue, I
It's a
think.
personal issue, and yeah, but according to the Bible, you know, but it doesn't
Yeah,
mean that
but
they're
Jesus-
condemned completely. They can be
It's,
saved.
by the way, I am a sinner. I am like I am like way worse than even we're all sinners in God's book. That's the thing. So
I don't feel that you've sinned.
oh no,
You don't look
I
like a
have.
sinner to me.
I've lied,
All-
cheated, stole,
everybody-
killed,
everybody's-
everything.
everybody's
Yeah, everybody
sins.
is. And but it's not about me. But so all this to say, calling out one particular sin in such a hateful way, that's not the way of God. God calls us out in love in order to bring us to repentance, which is to turn from that sin and to turn to Christ and be forgiven for that sin, right? And even after getting saved, I'm still going to him every day, every hour, every moment, like because I'm continually sinning in my heart.
But-
I have jealousy, all these other things that are an abomination to the Lord.
But now we're living in a different kind of era where it's celebrated.
Absolutely.
So I think it's different in that sense, and I believe that's why
Vanity.
you believe in the end times. I think, you know,
That sure is celebrated.
It's many of the things that used to be. I mean, we can't abolish them. You know, we can just you know, tell them to turn away from your sins. But now it's like the sin is more celebrated now.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
according to the Bible, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And do you feel that's why the society is breaking down, the degradation of society is happening, and I think evil is good and good is evil. I'm not talking about just sexuality. I'm talking about when you look at politics, mainstream media. I feel like the most evil thing in the world is mainstream media, American mainstream media, because all the other international countries, they pretty much worship them. You know, they worship the mainstream media rather than God. That's how I see it. If you look at New York Times, Washington Post, and CNN, all the reporting that they do, they purposely lie. For instance, let's give an example. When when Time magazine, which is a very prestigious magazine, when Donald Trump had his inauguration, he went to his Oval Office, right? And Time magazine reported that the first thing Trump did was get rid of the bust of Martin Luther King Jr. You know, but that was fake. That was fake. It wasn't real. The bust was still there. And you know what the Time magazine reporter said? I think his name was Zelk or something. He said, from my angle, I couldn't see it. But what they wanted to imply was Trump is a racist. He's a white supremacist. That's why he wanted to get rid of that, the hero of black community, you know. And most of the other international agencies, press agencies, just pretty much copy pasted that news. Time magazine came up with a correction the following day because the Trump White House people contested it. You know, this is wrong. But nobody else, all the other, you know, for instance, Korean media or Japanese media or African media, they didn't follow up. You know, the correction was not as big as the news. And for me, it's on purpose. They do this all the time, you know. And Trump became a symbol of that, about you know the evil reporting.
I think what the Trump administration or what Trump did was it brought a lot of media like out from the boroughs. He exposed a lot of them because there was such a it almost seemed like a personal vendetta. There was such a big plan to get rid of Trump, to make Trump a bad person, the worst possible person possible. I mean, they invested hours and hours and panels into this, right? So in America, in Korea, for example, if you're watching mainstream media, they only watch mainstream media in from America, right? So they're just getting this kind of news, right? This crazy stuff, and they're wondering, why is Trump even president? He's such a terrible guy. How can people even vote for him? They must be just crazy out of their minds. Oh my God, right? The media made him like that. I mean, they really did. It's pretty nuts how they were able to coordinate this whole thing.
You're right. What's your thought on that, Caroline?
On what? That was a lot.
On these, you know, about Trump and, you know, how the lies about him, which I believe mainstream media's coverage of him was pretty much 95% lies. You know, if you look at the Durham report that came out last year, it was Hillary Clinton campaign along with Barack Obama. They knew about this Trump-Russia collusion was a complete fake, you know, non-story, but they
still
made
went
this
for
up.
it.
And they cooked this up, and that was the narrative. And he even got a special counsel investigation upon him. You know, he ruined relationships with his close friends.
And then one other thing, have you heard of Hunter Biden's laptop? Have you even heard of it?
Heard of it? Yes.
Okay, you've heard of it, right?
I know you followed it.
Okay, do you know that it's real?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Okay, but during the election cycle,
okay.
it wasn't real.
Oh, I see.
It was all a hoax.
They said it was a Russia hoax.
It was a Russia collusion type of thing.
I mean, I can't keep
So
up
what I'm
with
saying is
all
I
of the
see evil
stories.
from these press reporting every day, you know.
Right,
It's
right,
painful
right.
to even, if it's true, I wouldn't consider it painful, but it's painful to even watch these.
No, it
you know,
just
fake
really
stuff,
feels
junk,
like
you know,
there is this like plan. There's this big group controlling the media, controlling the Congress, controlling everything.
And with this open border policy with Biden, you know, Title 42, they abolished it. And after that, for a week, there was a report from alternative media that 81,000 illegals came over, migrants crossed the border. But then the mainstream media said, no, 56% shrinked. They don't even know the numbers, but how could they say that 56% of migrants shrinked? And most of them, Korean media, I'm talking one particular paper, they just put a special, which is completely lie, but they just worship the mainstream media, WAPO, CNN, and I think this is also a form of satanic force. What did you say?
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know the details of current day stuff, but it reminds me of what happened with the riots and the whole Rodney
riots?
King. Yeah. I spoke with John Lee. He was a former writer for the LA Times during that time.
Okay.
And he gave me the history, and this opened my eyes a few years ago. I had no idea about the manipulation of the media and how they are a primary source of shaping the mindset of the viewer and the reader.
The morale, everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what he had, he was very somber, and he was very repentant about what he had been involved with back in the day unknowingly, right? Because the LA Times was a very well-respected newspaper back then, and he was a part of it, one of the few Asian voices within that company. And so when the whole, basically he said that you could watch how previous to the riots, previous to the riots, anytime there was an issue in South LA in terms of a store owner and a customer, it was called a client what was it? It was basically like owner-client struggle.
Dispute,
something like that. It was framed within the business transaction kind of relationship. And then he said that, I forgot what year it was, but it was shortly before the LA riots.
Latasha Harlins?
Yeah, shortly before that, he said that you'll see that the articles now called it a Black Korean conflict.
Yeah.
Like a
So
racial thing.
He was making, the LA Times was responsible for creating this
Narrative, right?
false narrative of this false conflict. It was more of a transactional thing, like a kid stealing something from the store.
You're
Or
right.
the store.
Yeah, if you think about it.
But they were instrumental in forming this racial narrative, and so he was very remorseful of that years later because he understood the part he played in creating that false narrative that blossomed.
So John Lee went along with it, with the mainstream,
He didn't
right?
know what he was doing, I think. He didn't know what he was a part of at that time. But later on, in hindsight, he was able to see, oh, that's what was going on.
And it was also a diversion from white-black
Yes.
hostile
Yeah.
situation, right? With the Rodney King. I mean, it wasn't Asian cops
There
that
were
did
other
that,
things
right?
going on, too,
And
and
I
the
think they
timing
kind of
of the
diverted,
release
and
of
all
the
that.
videos.
They
They
put
anger
the
went
they
to
put the trial
community.
like right behind it or something, right
Yeah,
behind the
absolutely.
Rodney King verdict.
So all of it, I mean, there is nothing new under the sun, right? That's absolutely truth. So whatever media did back then, that's what media is doing now. And so, hopefully people will just realize that this is just another part of the, like you said, just this other world that we're a part of that is invisible, that is in control, and that, people will wake up and search for truth and search for light and search for God.
Do you follow, like, for instance, like World Economic Forum or, Soros
really.
or Bill Gates? You don't? Then how do you know that it's end time then if you don't follow those? So just wondering.
Oh, I mean, the headlines are really hard to. I only read headlines. I don't
Oh, you
read the
do?
articles.
Okay.
Yeah, and the headlines are already
You know
very
what they're talking-
apparent
yeah.
that it's very sided in one way or the other, right? And so, so I see the headlines about the World Economic Forum. I hear about conspiracies of like the.
The Epstein Island, you read about those
I've heard
too?
about that. Yeah,
With
yeah.
the CIA director being there.
I don't remember.
Did you
that.
read yesterday that came out? Bill Gates got threatened by Jeffrey Epstein, blackmailed because he
saw
was
the
having an
headline of that.
affair with a
Yeah.
Russian poker player. Was it a Russian poker player model or
Yeah,
something like that?
I don't know. I don't
Well,
know.
I guess she wasn't underage, or was she?
I don't know, but I think everything kind of revolved around Jeffrey Epstein, and I think there was some kind of satanic, literally satanic force going on in Epstein Island. With all these world leaders, not just Bohemian Grove, but you had Epstein in the East Coast, right? That was on the East Coast, right?
I don't know what coast
I don't
it was
know,
on,
but-
but
But I don't understand. I mean, they're doing that Bohemian Grove stuff in July. I think come July every year. It's like they're not even hiding it.
it's
like,
like, no,
hey,
but
we're gonna-
they've done it for years.
yeah,
like,
and we're gonna do this. What are you
Ronald
gonna do
Reagan
about
was
it?
there.
And because the media is in their pocket and saying, don't report about this, and it was these figures like Alex Jones who broke this news and it became such a controversial thing that some congressmen, they didn't want to talk about it because they were involved in this kind of ritual. And I feel like there is satanic force in this world going on. And like you said, God has complete control, and he's allowing this to happen for
His own
grander
purposes,
purpose.
yeah,
I would
exactly.
You know,
say.
it's funny. America, it used to be the world. I mean, the nation of God. That's what it used to be.
I don't think it's like that
Well,
anymore. Yeah.
Look, in God we trust. It's all over the coins.
True.
When you even say the Pledge of Allegiance, I believe there's something about God in there too.
For
But
now,
even in that
maybe.
dollar mark, don't they have this all-seeing eye thing there?
That's
so people
That's
said
the
that was
that's the eye of God. See, the triangle's a trinity.
Some people have been saying that's the eye of the other. So
A lot
I
of
don't
people
know.
say that, but it's been used in pagan symbolism for a long time. I mean, it's in churches. You could
Yeah,
check.
I know.
But,
like
there's a lot
Illuminati.
of-
Vatican. We were talking about conspiracy theory.
No. I believe
but
in
you know
those
what?
conspiracies.
But you know what? Many conspiracy theories happen to become true, and this term conspiracy theory was coined by the CIA. in
what
the
are your thoughts on
1960s.
9/11?
And I wanted the building 7 that obviously really went down.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think there is no way around it. If you
Right.
look at the building, it's.
What are your
it's
thoughts on
It's a
9/11?
huge controversy. Did
That
you know
the
that there was
building
a
didn't-
separate building that went down?
No.
Yeah, there's
There
building
was.
number 7.
Yeah,
It's just
and people don't talk about it. I
crumbled
don't know.
down because it was on fire, which has never happened in the history
And
of any architecture.
And there is this thing called Operation Mockingbird, which CIA developed in the 1970s. Actually, Carl Bernstein, who was a reporter for Washington Post, did a long 25,000 word article special for the Rolling Stone magazine. He's a CNN contributor. I think he went to the dark side later. But if you look at that, CIA hired or paid these hired guns in New York Times, Washington Post, ABC, all these prestigious media outlets, 250 plus of them. I believe CIA and FBI, they penetrated these newsrooms. I really do. And they cover up for each other.
It's money.
Yeah, it's money.
It's money.
I really believe that, and we're just living in that world because I can see it because the mainstream media, there's a whole bunch of fake junk out there, and you know, I'm glad to have Caroline here, you know, and talk about these issues. We didn't talk about these topics ever, right?
No.
Caroline, so as a person of faith, how does one find sense in today's world? We'll leave off with that. We have about 30 seconds.
I mean, sense only comes from God. I mean, wisdom comes from God, discernment comes from God, and He's the author of truth, justice, and righteousness, and so only from Him.
How can you become a Christian? Okay,
It's up to God's will.
Okay.
But I think starting with surrendering, I mean, like really evaluating our own hearts to see, you know, the sin within and the brokenness within. I think that's a good first step.
All right. Thank you, Caroline, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that does it for today's Culture Shock. We'll see you back here again tomorrow.